Hello there, I'm Nathalia Melo, your unfiltered fit BFF. Mom of two turned CEO of a fitness empire. Someone who truly understands the struggles of trying to stay fit, sane, and sexy, all while juggling work, life, and motherhood. And this is the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. Follow along wherever you're listening and join me weekly as I help busy working moms just like you simplify your fitness journey so you can lose fat, regain your confidence, and feel sexy AF. It's time to stop living in the what ifs and hiding from the cameras. It's time to regain control over your body, feel sexy naked, and wear a bikini confidently. People already see you as a super confident woman, but it's time for you to feel the same way too. Come on, let's go. Hello there, fam. Welcome to another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast. I'm Nathalia Melo, your host, and hey, official Happy New Year, because I feel like the episode on the 1st of January didn't count. So today is like the first official Happy New Year because that first week doesn't count. Like that first week of the year until it's the Monday, it just feels a bit like it's still the previous year. So Happy New Year. Thank you so much for being here. And today's conversation is very relevant to what I am 99% sure that most of you listening are experiencing right now. I have experienced that. And I believe that it is incredibly important for us to talk about this because until we normalize, like if we don't normalize these patterns and the things that happen, is going to be virtually impossible for anybody to accomplish their fitness goals, their life goals, their relationship goals, their career goals long term, which that's everybody's goals, especially now as we are entering a new year. Most people that I know, I just did a poll recently on my social media, and 85% of people had fitness related resolutions or goals. So we need to be talking about this because I am seeing a lot in the conversations that I'm having, and even with some of our members, with myself, with our coaches. And what triggered me to have this conversation was a specific conversation that I had with one of our incredible members today, and we are helping her work through this. And I'm going to walk you through how you can work through this yourself as well. Because let me ask you a question. Are you currently feeling a bit overwhelmed coming off of the holiday season and you're, getting back to work and you're trying to catch up with the things that you didn't do because it's kind of like from right before Christmas up until the beginning of the year, not much happens. You kind of don't expect to get emails back from people. So it's a bit of a limbo. And then you get back to work and it's kind of like set big goals and go to the gym 7 days a week and, make all the money on the planet and get the raise and get the promotion and kids getting back to school. And the overwhelm has built up from the holiday season. And then now it's kind of like, oh my goodness, like what do I actually do? Because before you can kind of quote unquote use the holiday season as a reason to not get the ball rolling with whatever it is that you're doing. Oh, I'm busy with all these other things. But now is the new year. You're overwhelmed with different things, but the same level of overwhelm as the holidays. But you cannot say the holidays because now is the time that you are expected to take action and do things. And then that's when people keep on being on that all or nothing mentality. Let me tell you about the conversation that I had with this incredible member, and then we're going to take it from there. So we were talking because she mentioned that she feels overwhelmed, and Jen, our head coach, started to ask her some questions. And then she said something that is very valuable. And I love the personal responsibility and self-awareness. That is what makes somebody incredibly coachable. And I love that. So she said, this convo has made me realize a pattern. Gain traction and momentum during slower seasons of work, of life. And then work gets crazy. Life gets crazy. There are loads of things happening. And then you lose momentum. You stop doing the things that you felt like you were able to do when things were slow. And then whenever life slows down a little bit and work slows down and life doesn't have so many things happening at the same time, you're still feeling a bit overwhelmed from everything that happened. You're drained and you're tired and you're kind of emotionally and physically recovering. So you don't train because you're still overwhelmed from before. And then you're like, you know what? I'm going to get back on the wagon. But then by then you have lost momentum and it feels like it is such a steep hill to climb that then you get frustrated with it all. And then you just keep on being stuck on that cycle over and over again. And then you become overwhelmed. And then you start to feel frustrated and you start to beat yourself up. Does this resonate with anybody? Because I resonate with this as well. There is a level of frustration and overwhelm that I too experienced. You know, we had to plan a trip to Brazil 2 weeks prior, give flights for everybody, find a place to stay because of some health issues in my family, and managing my businesses and taking care of the rental properties that we have. So there was a lot on the table. So I get it, but expecting to not experience overwhelm or frustration is an unrealistic expectations that most people have of themselves and of what life is. It is not a personal flaw that you are feeling overwhelmed and frustrated. These strong feelings and rational feelings is one of the main characteristics that differentiates us humans from other animals. So expecting to not feel shouldn't be the goal, because the feelings are going to happen. And the thing is that overwhelm is not necessarily a sign that you are failing. It's a sign that you're moving and you're doing things and that you have things going on in your life. People that have absolutely nothing going on and they are miserable. So I'm a big believer that the goal shouldn't be to not have overwhelm, to not have frustration, because these things will happen. Especially because the holidays, the summer breaks, spring break, kids getting off school, or aging parents needing care, or it's a child that needs care, or is a family member that needs care. These are cycles of life. So expecting to not feel a bit thrown off and to not feel a bit overwhelmed, it is not a realistic expectations of something that just is. So what if we don't have to fix the overwhelm in the sense of we don't have to fix stopping that feeling? Because they are going to come and go. You can try to minimize them. And then instead of feeling overwhelmed for 6 months, you just feel overwhelmed for that moment. And then you allow to feel the feels and then you carry on with your life. There is a great analogy that I like to use. It's kind of like the waves in the ocean. The waves came and go. You cannot stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. Because ultimately, success isn't going to be from avoiding the feelings or asking for the absence of feelings or to pretend that the feelings are not there. It's about learning to move with the feelings that you're experiencing, learning how to manage your feelings so that you can still do the minimum required amount of effort in a busy season of life in order for you to not lose momentum. And this is why I say until my face turns purple. And I made posts during the holiday season. I make posts like this during the summer, during spring break, all the time. That stopping your fitness journey because life is busy or because you're waiting for that perfect time is the biggest mistake that you can make, because it is going to keep you stuck on this cycle and you're going to keep on being frustrated and you don't know how to navigate the frustration because everything that you do is on that extreme mindset. I'm either all in or I'm all out. And that is going to perpetually lead to frustration, which then is going to get you to a place where you don't even feel like trying anymore because you are just so conditioned in that cycle. And that's why we have a big problem with waiting for the perfect time, chasing that absence of overwhelm or the absence of feeling. Because I don't know one person that is not motivated. Right now is the season. Everybody's, signing up to go to the gym 7 days a week and eat lettuce and ice cubes 7 days a week and swear off sugar and being like, oh my God, I'm never going to have sugar ever again until a birthday party comes. And then you want to have the cake. And then you feel like you're a piece of shit because you want to have that. How dare I even want to have the cake? And then you don't allow yourself to feel. And then that's when you fall off the wagon. And then you feel like a failure. And then you have all these feelings that stop you from getting things back on track. Because the truth is that moment of zero, absolutely none overwhelm hardly ever comes. And whenever it does come, it doesn't last. We had a lot of things go kind of sideways in our trip to Brazil, like a lot of things. And it feels a bit like this about the overwhelm. And if it does, it doesn't last. It's kind of like the moments during our trip. Every time that something happened, I'm like, oh my goodness, what is next? And then something would happen. Like we would have that little moment of being like, whoo, we're good now. Nothing's going to happen. And then something else happened. That's kind of how overwhelm works, how feelings work, how frustration sometimes work. And one thing that it is important to focus on is that progress is going to come from taking actions in spite of overwhelm. Instead of waiting for the overwhelm to disappear. There was actually one of our members in the Powerhouse Academy. We were having a conversation, and she has young adults. And she teaches, and she was saying how, and listen, my husband is a teacher, and I know how overwhelming the end of the year can be as a teacher and as a parent. And we were talking, she's like, I feel just incredibly overwhelmed, and really feeling the feeling and letting the feeling stop her from taking the necessary actions to get herself out of it. And then I asked her, I was like, are you going to stop teaching? And she was like, oh no, I love what I do. I'm going to be doing this for at least another 10 years. Okay. Are your kids going to stop spending Christmas with you? Or is it just, as they are young adults? Or do you think that it's only going to grow because at some point they might start their own family, and then it's not just going to be the kids to deal with, it's going to be grandkids? And then she was like, oh no, it would be terrible if they stopped coming to spend Christmas with us. And I'm like, right. So this is an experience that is going to happen every single year. So we either learn how to be proactive and to respond to the overwhelm and to respond to life in the middle of a bit chaotic, and when you have a lot of things going on and you have a lot of feelings of like frustration because maybe you cannot get all your work out. And what if instead of giving into all these feelings, we learned how to appropriately respond to that specific season? And what would this look like? Maybe keeping your workouts, let's say for an hour, 5 times a week, might lead to a lot of overwhelm because you don't have as much time. So what if we compromise, and instead of doing 5, we did 3 just for this season? And how does this apply to the new year right now? Because now it's kind of like that season that we still have the aftermath of the overwhelm for the holiday season, but it feels like things are going to slow down. People start to set themselves up for failure by committing to a routine or committing to a strategy that is absolutely delusional for the reality of their lives, the ebbs and flows of their lives. Like, let's say that you work like the initial member that I talked to that gave me the idea for this podcast. She has a very demanding career. There are ebbs and flows in her career that sometimes she's working 14-hour days. So if we're over here saying, you have to train 5 days a week for an hour and a half every single day and eat lettuce and ice cubes, and, if you don't do this, you suck. It might work for the period where work is slow and kids are, in a routine. But there is no way that she's going to be able to maintain that whenever life gets busy. So having a plan of action to maintain motion during the busy season, it starts in the slow season, which means right now, as you're setting yourself up for all the big goals, you need to be objective with what your routine actually looks like, in not overcommit and overextend yourself for something that is not going to allow you to keep that momentum going. And a lot of people ask me, Nathalia, why do you train when you travel? 1, because I like it. 2, because it's a big part of my life. And 3, because that is when most people lose their momentum. They stop. And then, I already missed like a week when I was there. And then they get back home and they're like, hey, you know what? Like just another day is not gonna hurt. And then some people are able to get back on track. But a lot of people beat themselves up and feel overwhelmed with like, oh my goodness, I've gone backwards so much. Like, where do I even begin? So it is a lot easier to keep that motion, even with a little bit. My workouts when I travel are pretty mediocre at best. Some are decent, but most are mediocre. Half of the time that I spend whenever I'm home. But it is something, because it's about maintaining that motion. It is not about the physical results at that time. It's about creating that consistency. And creating that consistency for the busy times is going to start in the slow times by learning how to feel your feels, by setting a routine and an expectation that aligns with the different seasons of your life, instead of constantly waiting for that perfect gap of time. Because if you want to have long-term success with fitness and with your physique and with your health, it is going to be until you die. So I have no idea what people are sprinting for in the first, 2 days of the year to then lose steam, and then they're not able to maintain. This is a forever thing. And that's why we like to keep things so simple in the Powerhouse Academy, because the simplicity is what allows busy people to stay consistent. Trying to elaborate and have all the bells and whistles is what makes people overwhelmed, because the novelty is sexy when you have nothing else going on. But whenever you have a bunch of shit to do, and then you have to find that sprinkle of a salt from the blood of a virgin in the top of the Himalayan, you become overwhelmed with that. And then what happens? You fall off the wagon, you lose momentum, and then you feel like you're a piece of shit. And then that is just that cycle. So here are 2 quick steps for you to navigate the feeling and that idea that you shouldn't be feeling overwhelmed, that you shouldn't be feeling frustrated, that you shouldn't be feeling X, Y, and Z. What if instead of fighting that overwhelm or frustration, you just acknowledge it? I am feeling frustrated. I am feeling overwhelmed. Okay. You feel the feels. And then you ask, why am I feeling like this? And what is one thing that I can do right now? Because if you are trying to pretend that feeling doesn't exist, it's only going to become worse and worse, because you're not giving it a name. You're not acknowledging it. Then once you acknowledge it, cool, I'm feeling overwhelmed, that shit. Okay. And I'm not saying to acknowledge it just so you can be all day, I'm feeling so overwhelmed, and to kind of ruminate on that. No, you acknowledge, you feel your feels. You ask yourself, why am I feeling like this? And what's one small thing that I can do right now despite the overwhelm? Good example. Are you feeling overwhelmed right now with all the things that you have to do with fitness, with nutrition, with getting back on track, with a zillion things? How about instead of committing for those 5-6 days that you want to commit to for 2 hours, going through 2 times a day, how about you commit to 3 times a week for 15 minutes? That's it. 3 times a week, 15 minutes. That's all. And then you start from there. This is an action that you can take. I'm yet to see someone, regardless of how busy they are, that does not have 15 minutes in a day. We have a member that whenever she joined, she's a very, very busy doctor. She runs a practice. She has a kid. She's very involved with her child's life. So it's a big, big, big part of her life outside of work. So she always cannibalized any time that she could put for herself to be 100% present with her child. And whenever we start, she's like, I don't have any time. And I'm like, what can you do? What can you give me? She's like, I might be able to do like 10 minutes 3 times a week. I'm like, cool, let's start with that. And then she came to us after that. She's like, you know what? I'm no longer feeling as overwhelmed. And I see that this is something that I can stay consistent with. How about we increase that to 15, 20 minutes? She asked for that increase. Why? Because she had learned to, 1, manage her overwhelm, and 2, that we didn't need to do 50 million things at the same time, in addition to the 50 million things that she already does. So please don't look at feelings as a stop sign. Oh, I'm overwhelmed. I need to stop. Oh, I'm feeling frustrated. I need to stop. They're not a stop sign. They're just a signal. Hey, something is happening. Acknowledge it. Why? What can I do? And it is incredibly important to build those habits, especially in the middle of chaos when you don't even know where to start. Build them small. Identify the 2-3 things that you do no matter how busy or tired you get. What are the 2 or 3 things that you can do right now that you know that you would be able to do when life gets busy too, like super, super busy? Because if you try to go balls to the walls from right now, whenever life gets busy, you're not going to be equipped to navigate that because all you know, and that's what I see. It's funny. I just had a conversation with a lady and we were talking and she was like, oh my goodness, I just opened a business and I gained 30 pounds in the past year because it's so weird because before I used to be able to 100% focus on my fitness. And now I don't know what happened with me. And then I asked her, I was like, whenever you were 100% focused on your fitness, did you have the business? And she was like, no. And I was like, since you opened the business, have you been able to focus on your fitness even a little bit? She's like, no. I'm like, right. So you're trying to utilize the strategy of 100% in the fitness when your attention in your time, in your availability, in your bandwidth does not allow for 100% commitment just in the fitness because you have other things going on in your life. So if you keep on trying to do what worked when you were 100% into the fitness thing, now that you also have another big thing that requires a lot of your attention, you're going to keep on failing and you're going to keep on feeling overwhelmed. You see what I'm saying? And I know that this is something that happens with a lot of people as they start to, advance in their careers, as they start to have children, build a family, take care of aging parents. Their attention starts to become a little bit more spread. And all the time that you had before to dedicate to looking or feeling a certain way in your body, it's being split amongst other things. And then you keep on trying to use the same strategy. Oh, but it worked when I went to the gym 5 times a day, twice a week. And I'm like, right. But you didn't work 70 hours a week. So how do you think that that's going to work? So we need to understand that. And there is also a big importance to separate yourself from the feeling. You feel overwhelmed, but you're not an overwhelmed person. I'm experiencing overwhelmed right now. That's okay. What is my next step? And feelings are temporary and actions create momentum. And this is one of the reasons why I have such a big problem with people that track progress in any capacity, business, fitness, anything by feeling, because feelings are temporary. Feelings change. Actions and data, they're objective and they allow you to make the necessary decision that you need to make to move forward. Like toddlers allow themselves to be driven by feelings. We are adults. So if you're constantly allowing feelings to take over you, you are going to keep on going backwards because you're also not even going to have a way to track your success if you're just like going by feelings. And listen, feelings are important. I'm not minimizing them. But whenever we're talking about succeeding in very specific things, you might need to put your feelings, take it from the driver's seat of your decisions in your future. And if you have listened to this podcast, you probably are like, Nathalia, you've said this 1,000 times. I know. But I'm going to say time and time again because I still see people making this mistake, which is that life has seasons. Busy seasons, calm seasons, growth seasons, recovery seasons, seasons that, you might have to train from home because you don't have the time to go to the gym. Every action has a reaction. So you cannot expect to not pay attention to your fitness and your health and not have consequences from it. Every action has a reaction. And that's how life operates. So if you're always expecting life to be this smooth sailing, you're setting yourself up for failure. I have these same conversations during the summer breaks. because I see time and time again, people taking breaks. Oh, I need to take a break because my kids, it's summer, I'm going to travel. And then August comes and then they are 50 steps behind. Same thing now with the new year. The moment you understand that life has seasons and that every action, AKA going off the rails, is going to have a reaction, you're going to go backwards on your progress. Then you're going to be able to better understand what success looks like in the long run. Your habits and efforts will look a bit different in each season. And again, you're going to have to manage your expectations on that. And that's okay. So maybe you don't go into the new year with, eating lettuce and ice cubes and training 75 hours every single day until you crash and burn, because that gave you results very quickly, but then you went backwards very quickly as well. What if we manage the expectation on the outcome on a strategy that is much more aligned with a long-term success for you? Because it is important to understand that success isn't about being perfect in every single season. It's about setting yourself up for success, whatever success looks like throughout the different seasons, by showing up consistently. Even if when you show up, you are mediocre. But I much rather have somebody show up mediocre and stay consistent and not lose the momentum than not show up at all because they cannot be perfect. And that's why it is such the mindset, the understanding how human behavior works is a big part of how we do things in the Powerhouse Academy. We have a licensed counselor. Why? Because if we're not understanding the root cause of this perfectionist mentality, of this all or nothing mentality, if we're not able to overcome that, you're just going to be stuck on that cycle time and time again. How do I know that? Because I've been there. And until I addressed what was in between my 2 ears, in addition to addressing my nutrition in a way that was aligned with my goals and my training in the way that was aligned with my goals, I just kept on being stuck on the same cycle time and time again. So to wrap this up today, I really want to encourage you to do 3 things. Number 1, be very objective with what your reality looks like. Because if right now is a bit slow, great. Understand that if you overcommit yourself right now, whenever things get a little bit busy, you're going to feel overwhelmed and you're not going to know how to navigate that overwhelm. You're not going to know how to feel the feeling of overwhelm, of frustration, because maybe you weren't perfect. So be objective with your reality right now. What you're committing to, is this really something that you can 100% fulfill? Can you really cut out sugar for the rest of your life until the end of times? Or you want to sometimes be able to have an ice cream with your kids or go to a birthday party and have a slice of cake. Number 2 is be okay with acknowledging your feelings, not dwelling on them. I always say, I'm like, feel your feels. You are entitled to feel your feels. We're not talking about ruminating on the feels. We're talking about feeling the feels and then objectively looking at it and saying, what can I do? What is the one thing under my control that I can do? Because the fact that you're feeling, it's great. What is it? I think it's like sociopaths or psychopaths, I don't know, that have no feelings. So the fact that you're feeling feels, it's great sign. You are a great member of society for feeling feels. So instead of scrutinizing the fact that you have feels, accept it, celebrate it for a second, acknowledge why, ask yourself what you can do. And third and last point, make sure that you're keeping your strategy as simple as possible. I do not give a rat's ass how advanced you think you are. I have seen plenty of advanced, I'm doing air quotes, people fall off the wagon and not be able to get back on because they're so worried about screaming from the rooftops about how advanced they are that they cannot objectively look at the problem and understand that what is keeping them stuck is a lack of foundation for this new season of life that they're in. They're so obsessed with, I'm just so advanced, I'm not going to do this because it's just too simple. I am yet to meet one person that hasn't succeeded by sticking to things as simple as possible. Do you know why? Because simplicity is going to mitigate overwhelm. It's not going to make it disappear, but it's going to minimize and mitigate. And especially for those who lead a very busy lifestyle. If you have ever caught yourself saying, I haven't got time to do anything. I am just so busy. I don't know how I'm going to do this. You have no business looking for the bells and whistles strategy. Why? Because you're already overwhelmed and busy as you are. Why the hell are you going to look for a strategy that is going to add more shit to your table and have you looking, like I said before, for the Himalayan salt with the blood of a virgin on the top of the mountain? Do not think that simplicity is less than because you perceive yourself as advanced. And that's something people ask me all the time. Oh, like, what are your hacks? What are your tips? What is it that you do? I keep shit simple. Like, there are no hacks. I'm not tracking every single bit of sleep that I have. And that's the thing. People are keeping themselves overwhelmed with data that doesn't matter to optimize a shady foundation. So how about we peel things back? Focus on the basics. Focus on that foundation. And once that is maximized and mastered, then we can talk about you being advanced or being whatever the hell you want to call yourself. Because I would consider myself a very advanced person. I've been lifting for 26 years. My shit's pretty simple. The hack is the simplicity. But people like to make themselves overwhelmed with the complicated stuff. So let's leave the overwhelm for the things in life that are going to bring overwhelm, regardless, because it is out of our control. And on the things that we can control, let's keep things simple so it doesn't become a chore whenever life gets crazy, because life is going to get crazy. All right, guys, this is it for today. I hope this episode was helpful. Make sure that you leave a review. Make sure that you're commenting. This is your way to pay us back all in the whole production on our time and on the information and the value that we're bringing to you here. If you want to send me a message and ask any questions about the Powerhouse Academy and how you can join, there is a link down below that you can click to schedule a call with me. The call is with me to apply to, so I can learn a little bit more about you and even see if you are a good fit for the program, because it is by application only. And like I said, if you're looking for bells and whistles, if you're looking for fancy shit, if you're looking for like the next hack, I ain't it. But if you're looking to make your life as simple as possible with a strategy that works, then click that button below, schedule a call, and I'll see you next week. Adios. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. But let me ask you, what was your aha moment in today's episode? I would love to know. You can leave me a comment at the link in the show description. You can also follow me on social media, Instagram. Links are down below as well. And let me know what topics you want to hear more about or who I should have on the show. This is it for today, guys. I'll see you back next week for another episode of the Unfiltered Fit Life podcast.